I'm John Rodgers from Cuyahoga Falls, and recently made another visit down to Washington, D.C., and this show is about that visit plus a few others in the same area. Called Uncommon Ground, our nation's capital, and we're first going to visit the part of it that is actually in Virginia. And here's the map. This is D.C. This is Maryland outside here. This is D.C. The Potomac River runs right through here. But this area here, Arlington Cemetery and the Iwo Jima statue and so forth, is also considered part of the D.C. Area. A lot of memorials and that type of thing. So the first one we're going to look at is the Iwo Jima statue. This was raising the flag on Mount Suribachi. It's considered a U.S. Marine Corps War Memorial. The event took place on February the 23rd, 1945. And it is a magnificent tribute. And the flag is flying at half-mast, I assume, for what's going on in Iraq at the time we were there. And look at the hands up on the flagstaff itself, and you will see them one more time. But I did a few close-ups of the faces there, and then went around to the side, and you might remember this from even back there. Uncommon valor was a common virtue. And over on, not far from that, on the same memorial, was this, in honor and memory of the men of the United States Marine Corps who have given their lives to their country since 10th of November 1775, and some flowers around that, as they usually are. Close-ups of the men, but it was not all Marines. There were 5 Marines and 1 Navy corpsman are depicted here. And as we were starting to leave and had moved away from where the bus had left us because it swung around, then we started hearing this man right in the middle with the white shirt and the baseball cap. It's not quite clear, but that man had been wounded 2 days before, and somebody yelled, "Hey, they're raising the flag." And this man that we got to talk to had seen the flag actually being raised on Mount Suribachi, and that is the Iwo Jima statue. And here is an earlier picture when my wife and I were there, and a Marine formation, the band, and a parade in front of the Iwo Jima statue. Very close to that, and very close to the Arlington Cemetery, is the Netherlands Carillon. It's close, very close, and this was given 50 bells in gratitude for the U.S. effort during and after World War II by Netherlands. You can see a little reflection. I took that through the bus window. Close by, and a lot of people miss it, but you have to get to it from a walking bridge across the river, is the Theodore Roosevelt Island in the Potomac River. And these 3 pictures are there. My wife and I had walked across to it on an earlier trip. Old Theodore himself, one of my favorite presidents is Theodore Roosevelt. And he looks the part in all 3 of the pictures. Of course, it's of the same stature. Now this one is just a little fuzzy. I don't have too many that are fuzzy, but if you look to this side and see this, especially right in here, this is the Pentagon, and that is the part that has been repaired. It goes a little behind the tree, but right in here is where the plane crashed there, the plane bombing, I should say, 9/11/2001 on the Pentagon. And now we're going to the one you really go to on the Virginia side, and that's Arlington National Cemetery. This is the entrance as we have come in, and that is the Lee Mansion or the Arlington House up on the hill. You go through a little visitor center, and we did this time on the shuttles, but you go through the visitor center, and here is a model of the John F. Kennedy funeral procession with the horse behind there, the empty horse. And this is actually, we're on the shuttle now, and we're going into the cemetery proper. You'll see different things. You'll see what I call uniform markers, like you're seeing here, and then earlier stuff. Everything today is pretty much uniform markers, but in earlier times it was mixed markers, all kinds of big ones, little ones, and so forth. And then as you get closer to the Arlington Mansion, you see the eternal flame there, and the Arlington Mansion, the flag at half-staff again on a rock. And you can actually see them in the foreground, but let me go in a little closer and you can really see them. These are the graves here and here of Jackie and John F. Kennedy. And out in front of this is this wording: "And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man." And close by, at his request, Robert F. Kennedy's grave, he requested that his marker be a small white cross. They did put the stone in also, but the small wooden white cross. And then some more of the uniform markers as you go out. And then we got back on the shuttle and went on over to what is known as the Site of the Unknowns. It's an amphitheater there. Right inside here they hold all sorts of memorials and programs and so forth. And we did not really go into the amphitheater itself. That wasn't our purpose. We went to the side of it and on to the back. And this is the tomb of the unknown soldier. Now the one you are seeing, the big one, is the tomb of the unknown soldier from World War I. And it's stated that way, the unknown soldier, World War I, and that was put in place in 1921. Now, as you go on further, I'll have to go one more. This is another guard walking his post. But as you go on, and the changing of the guard, we got there in time for that. Sometimes you wait for it. And they make quite a ceremony out of it, and they're still changing the guard now. They're almost through. But I want to call your attention to these three markers here. This one is the unknown service person of World War II. This is the one from Korean War, and then this one is from the Vietnam War. The World War the World War II and the Korean War, those were interned in 1958, and the Vietnam War unknown was placed there in 1984. These guards that you're seeing are from the Army's 3rd Infantry. This is a very special duty, and they don't stay here too long, maybe 6 months or something like that. What you do, 21 steps, then face the tomb for 21 seconds, and then you just keep on going and on going and on going. And now here, it was a special laying of a wreath. And you cannot see the bugle, but this guy here is the bugler, and he is sounding taps for this particular memorial. Not too far from that, really, is the mast of the USS Maine. The Maine was sunk in Havana Harbor in February 1898, and this was the start of another war. And very close to that and across from the Tomb of the Unknowns are 3 memorials. This one is in memory of the crew of the Space Shuttle Columbia, which ran into its difficulty February the 1st, 2003. And nobody aboard lived. And this is in memory of those who died attempting to rescue hostages in Iran, April 25th, 1980. And then this one goes back to 1986, and grateful and loving tribute to Space Shuttle Challenger. This is the one that had the teacher aboard. January 28th, 1986. And some more of the uniform markers as you move out. And then we did not go into the Arlington House, but this is a sort of a beautiful trellis just outside, and this is where the shuttle stops to pick you up and take you on. And then I have to point out a few things. As we were leaving Arlington on a previous trip, this is the Arlington Memorial Bridge stretching in front. This is the Lincoln Memorial, this is the bridge. This is the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and this is the U.S. Capitol over here. And now we will go into Washington proper. I've used the National Park Service map. Here is the Lincoln Memorial here. This is the new World War II Memorial, which we will be to in a few moments. This is the Washington Monument. That lines up with the White House over here, and this is the ellipse. And the Jefferson Memorial lines up with the White House. And then coming on down this is considered the Mall, and here's the U.S. Capitol down here. And you can probably see my fingers on the map. Now, we're going to look in this area first. So I blew that up a little bit. Lincoln Memorial, the tidal basin. See, this is that stretch up here with the Washington Memorial and World War II. And we're going over here, we're going to look at the Jefferson Memorial and the Franklin D. Roosevelt Memorial over here. Later on, we will come back and the bus will park us over here. While I have this on and it's that close, I'm going to show you this. The bus will park us over here, and we will go to the Vietnam Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, and then come over this side to the Korean War Memorial. Boy, we talk a lot about war with these memorials. But here is the Jefferson Memorial. It lines up with the south edge of the White House, both being perpendicular to the Capitol, and the Washington Monument Lincoln Memorial line, that whole line through the mall that I showed you. The memorial is circular and it's colonnaded and it's in a classical style and would no doubt be pleasing to Thomas Jefferson. And yes, those are cherry blossoms blooming around the tidal basin. The ceiling of the dome, which is of Indiana limestone, is 67 feet above the floor, and you can see the statue of Jefferson in there. Rudolph Evans was the sculptor of the 19-foot statue of Jefferson. The 4 panels give a few famous and meaningful quotations on the inside wall. The cornerstone was laid on November the 15th, 1939, and the dedication was held on April the 13th, 1943, the 200th anniversary of Thomas Jefferson's birth. And of course, the Declaration is featured on one of the walls there. And this is from an actual moving bus that I took this picture, and you can actually see the statue in there. I really like this memorial. It has the smooth flow of a great memorial, and it has that dome on the top, and Jefferson really liked domes. Now, standing between the columns and in the Jefferson Memorial, we're looking over to the Washington Monument. And while we're at the tidal basin now, we're going over to Franklin D. Roosevelt's memorial. In case you can't read these blocks here, I have them all printed so I can. I propose to create a civilian conservation corps to be used in simple work. More important, however, than the material gains will be the moral and spiritual value of such work. And here is Franklin Roosevelt and his little dog Fowler. And the sign behind Fowler says, they who seek to establish systems of government based on the regimentation of all human beings by a handful of individual rulers call this a new order. It is not new, and it is not order. And then, of course, they had to have somebody listening to one of Franklin Roosevelt's famous fireside chats. Now, this one has a couple of sunspots in it, but bear with me on it. We must scrupulously guard the civil rights and civil liberties of all citizens, whatever their background. These are all words of Franklin Roosevelt. We must remember that any oppression, any injustice, any hatred is a wedge designed to attack our civilization. And then these two guys, one sitting, one standing, and then you see on beyond them a line of people. But I want to call your attention to those words in there. The test of our progress is not whether we can add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. And I don't know about you, but I've always been a fan of Eleanor Roosevelt and been to her place at up the Hudson River and so forth. And so this is Eleanor, one of the great first ladies. And we will see a lot of water around this whole memorial features water. Now more on FDR. This is the memorial as he said he wanted it. And all it says in memory of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1882-1945. Of course, he said this before the 1945. But this little memorial, and it is small, it is over in the area by the National Archives. Now we're going to look at the White House. I've never been in the White House, but I have photographed it from a distance a number of times. And there will be some here, and you will see the Jackson Park, and that is Andrew Jackson on the horse there in the statue. And then I have one from the other direction. Now in this one you can also see the Washington Monument in the background. And this is from the other direction. But there always seems to be tents or fences or something in your view of the White House. So here's again out in Jackson Park. And this is probably the closest one. You can see a fountain in front of the White House and the flag and the Jackson statue. Now, I pointed this out before, but let's just do it one more time. This is the Lincoln Memorial. The bus is going to let us off, I think, right at this intersection. We're going to come through here, and this area of wording, which I know you can't read, this is where the Vietnam Memorial is. And then the bus is going to pick us up over here. So we're going to the Vietnam Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, and then the Korean War Memorial. And the first will be the Vietnam Memorial. And this is the wall. And you can see the reflections on the wall. Now I'm going to take you in close so you can see some of the names on it. And the reflections. There's a little American flag. It's all kinds of things are put there in front of the names for a particular person. I've seen teddy bears there. I've seen letters. I've seen flags. You see flags all the time. But it's no telling what you will see on any. Here's one with photographs and so forth, and some flowers for some particular person whose name is on the wall. Now that is one part of the Vietnam Memorial, and that was the first part. This is the three men up here, and this memorial, this part of the memorial was given by Ross Perot to the American people. And this is the second part, and you can see I have gone behind the statues, and you're seeing the wall with all the people looking at it in the background, as it were, at this time. But here are the men. And then that is the second part, and then the third part is the flag. The flag is there, and then a few years ago, I think it might be as much as 5 years ago now, the Women's Memorial was added. And this is the Women's Memorial of the Vietnam War. And these nurses are wondering, what are we going to do with this dying soldier? And this was carved by the same woman who did the Sacagawea dollar coin. And then we move from there over to the Lincoln Memorial. Now, this may well be the finest memorial that you and I will ever see. It has a feeling all its own, but it draws you into it, and there is indeed a feeling of the great man here. Take your time and read again the Gettysburg Address, which you can read right there. And I want to read you these words. I think they're chopped off for you, but above his head it says, "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." Henry Bacon was the architect of the building, and the ground was broken on February the 12th, 1914, with the cornerstone being laid a year later. The sculptor of the statue was Daniel Chester French, but the statue that you actually see was carved up in New York City, by the Piccirilli brothers, with Daniel Chester French assisting. The statue is 19 feet high and 19 feet wide, and it was carved from 28 blocks of Georgia white marble over a 4-year period. 36 surrounding columns represent the number of states at the time of Lincoln's death. And I put my old, I could see it, so I put my old home state of South Carolina in this picture that you can see on there. The dedication of the memorial was held on May 30th, 1922, with over 100,000 people on the grounds. And there are those columns, 36 of them surrounding them. And you can look off the steps of it or off inside, and you can see the Washington Monument, and on down you can see the Capitol building. And then we step off of, I know I put this in later. This is the Lincoln Memorial as seen from the World War II Memorial. And it's interesting that we didn't get this picture until the next day, but there's a group up here. I don't know if they're singers or who they are, but they're a group in some sort of bluish uniform there that's going to do something having to do with Abraham Lincoln. And then we walked over the other side, away from the Lincoln Memorial, to the Korean War Memorial. Now, some people miss this, and you really shouldn't. And this also has a wall over there, but this wall does not have names in it. It has pictures in it, people pictures, and also people's images reflect in it. But these men represent not just the Army, they represent all the armed forces, and they're all in foul weather gear, as was needed in Korea quite a bit. And now I took this in such a way that you could see just a little bit of the Lincoln Memorial, so you could know where it was. And flowers are quite often used here too, put fresh. A little more of the Lincoln Memorial over there. Now behind me is the water features of it, and over to my left is the wall. And you can see on the wall soldiers and military people, and the reflection of people who have come to visit the memorial. And it's hard to wait in Washington long enough for all the people to be out of the way, but I waited here and I got the panel without any reflecting people in it. Also, the flag here is part of the memorial. And then on behind the flag are a few other things. But this memorial, I think this is sunk down in the ground, and it says, "Our country honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met." 1950, Korea, 1953. The 53 is out of the picture. And then here is some of the water features, and there's one thing that I really want you to read, and it's right here. Freedom is not free. And as we leave that, we will be going over to the Washington Monument. The very, very memorable memorial dealing with the Korean War. Now, this is the World War II memorial. We're off of the map on what we just saw, and here's the Washington Monument, the Mall, and the Capitol, and we're going to take a look right there. I don't have pictures, but I have been to the top of that, and my wife and I walked the steps down, and that's quite an interesting thing. You see, George Washington might have been first in the hearts of his countrymen, but it took a long time to say that by way of a monument. The cornerstone was laid on July the 4th, 1848, using the trowel that George Washington had used on the Capitol cornerstone in 1793. And we're looking at the monument from the Lincoln Memorial. However, in 1854, work stopped, and for 25 years, this tribute to Washington stood at the 125-foot level. Note the bird down just left of the monument in the lower part of the picture. Finally, the Engineer Corps of the War Department was put in charge, and in 1880, work resumed. On December the 6th, 1884, the capstone was put in place. I think that is a little fuzzy, and it was topped out at 555 feet. It was not open to the public until October the 9th, 1888. There's an elevator and 898 steps. Each side of the base is 55 feet, and it tapers to 34 feet at the top, faced with white marble. And you're looking at it now from the front of the Capitol building. There are 190 carved stones from all over that you can see as you go down those stairs. And these are from states, territories. Some of them are very ancient because some of them are from other countries as well. And this is the memorial from over in Arlington National Cemetery. And then I hit Washington one time and was able to get this picture at sunset of the Washington Monument. Now we're going into the memorial that we went on this special trip for, and that is the World War II Memorial. And this is the Pacific entrance there, Pacific and Atlantic. And here's the brass shield, World War II, and then just one of the fountains. And those all represent states on behind the fountains there. And here are the words that tie it all together as we look down at the Lincoln Memorial. Here in the presence of Washington and Lincoln, one the 18th century father and the other the 19th century preserver of our nation, we honor those 20th century Americans who took up the struggle during the Second World War and made the sacrifices to perpetuate the gift our forefathers entrusted to us, a nation conceived in liberty and justice. And then turning around, the Washington Monument. And then there are different words all over the place, and I have some of them for you. December the 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, a date that will live in infamy. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now, there are a number of places like this, and I'll show you in a later photograph just where they are. But these are called bas-relief, and this is the fireside chat. You see the radio over to the side, and they're listening to a fireside chat. And some more of the words. And these are by an author, Walter Lord. And this deals with the Battle of Midway, June 4th to 7th, 1941. They had no right to win, yet they did. And in doing so, they changed the course of a war, even against the greatest of odds. There is something in the human spirit, a magic blend of skill, faith, and valor that can lift men from certain defeat to incredible victory. And here's the one on farming. See, all of these things were going on at the same time. And then looking to the Lincoln Memorial, off to the right of this. We will talk about that later, but those are all gold stars representing Americans who died in this effort. And on the Atlantic side, these are some of the states represented there. And some more of the words. These are by Colonel Ovetta Culp Hobby. Women who stepped up were measured as citizens of the nation, not as women. This was a people's war, and everyone was in it. And one of the things women were in was this one, building aircraft, building all kinds of things for the war effort. And then Franklin Roosevelt is the next one that we come to after looking at the fountains again. This is just of tremendous stature. Franklin Roosevelt, I guess I didn't have a picture of it, but they have given their sons to the military service. They have stoked the furnaces and hurried the factory wheels. They have made the planes and welded the tanks, riveted the ships and rolled the shells. And that was Franklin D. Roosevelt. And now I have you at paratroopers going to jump. And to the Lincoln Memorial over on the Pacific side. And here is where those bas-reliefs are, all along here and all along the other side as well. Now there's no picture on this one, but it's General Eisenhower Dwight Eisenhower, and it's about D-Day, June 6, 1944. You are about to embark upon the great crusade towards which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. And right in the middle here, you see the Ohio marker there. And here is the reef on the top of that marker. Of course, it looks like any of the others. And then down below there is the rope, the sculptured rope that ties the whole thing together, ties the whole country together. And there is that wall again, a fountain and the Gold Star Wall. There are 4,000 stars, and it commemorates more than 400,000 American lives. And it is something that you will not forget, the Gold Star Wall. Now, there's no picture here, but General George C. Marshall. We are determined that before the sun sets on this terrible struggle, our flag will be recognized throughout the world as a symbol of freedom on the one hand and of overwhelming force on the other. These are some of the battles in the Pacific, and this quote is from Admiral Chester Nimitz. They fought together as brothers in arms. They died together, now they sleep side by side. To them we have a solemn obligation. And then on either side you can see the peace doves up above. You can see you don't wait here to get your pictures because people are always here. In case you can't read this, this is by President Harry S. Truman. Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. And without a picture, today the guns are silent. A great tragedy has ended. A great victory has been won. The skies no longer rain death. The seas bear only commerce. Men everywhere walk upright in the sunlight. The entire world is quietly at peace. And that's General Douglas MacArthur. And one more by Harry Truman without a picture. The heroism of our own troops was matched by that of the armed forces of the nation that fought by our side. They absorbed the blows and they shared to the full in the ultimate destruction of the enemy. And you see the wall that I keep telling you about with the gold stars there as you look down at the Lincoln Memorial. And then a little ironic note in the last of it, and I found this at the end of the wall, right there on this side. And through it all, Kilroy was here. A lot of people will get a chuckle of that. If you're too young, you never heard of Kilroy, but this was something all over World War II. Now we move on. And we're going, this was all down in here, but actually beyond there, beyond. And this is the U.S. Capitol, and that's where we're going now. And this is the mall, this is the Smithsonian Castle here, and we're going up to the Capitol itself. Now you go in the Capitol actually from the back. And as we were standing in line, I had taken some pictures, and I saw a beautiful southern magnolia blossom as we were there. And then there are two close ones here. of the back of the Capitol before we finally get in. But there's a little story about that statue on top. So I moved in close. That is my picture, and then this is one from a book. This is Freedom. And Freedom is dressed up as an American Indian with that rig on the top. And there was a lot of controversy about putting Freedom there. One of the men did not want to work under the woman on the top of the building he was working in, and all kinds of weird stuff like that. But anyhow, we are now in, and you have to have permission to go in here as you do in the White House. And we're looking up to the dome, and this is the apotheosis, however you pronounce it, of George Washington. He's surrounded by symbols of democracy and technological progress. And then down from that is this bas-relief, which is really quite well done. But as you come in, off to your left will be this statue of Abraham Lincoln. And you can see over to the side of him is a painting. There are 8 paintings in here, and you will see 5 of them. The first you will see the 4 by John Trumbull. And the dates that I give you are the dates when it was purchased. This is presenting the Declaration of Independence. I've seen this in history books and history magazines as the signing of the Declaration. But this is the committee. This is Thomas Jefferson. I think this is John Adams. And this is the committee that prepared the Declaration. It is being presented. It has not even been argued yet. But they call it signing, and it's a long way from being ready for signing. And it was purchased in 1819. And this is the surrender of Burgoyne at Saratoga, New York. He surrendered to Gates. And this was in 1822. This is the surrender of Lord Cornwallis to George Washington. This was purchased in 1820, but the irony of this thing was Cornwallis wasn't even there. He said he was sick, so he couldn't come to surrender. He had to send one of his aides. A likely story, huh? And that ended the Revolutionary War. And this one is fuzzy, but I wanted to use the pictures that I had actually taken in the rotunda instead of some better ones I actually took out of a book. But this is something that didn't happen normally. George Washington is resigning his commission, and this was purchased in 1824. Now those are the 4 that were done by John Trumbull, the best known. So I threw in one other, and this is the discovery of the Mississippi River by De Soto. This was done by William Powell and was purchased in 1855. You have to understand that a lot of people knew the Mississippi River was there. They're standing all around De Soto, but they don't look at it that way. Now, some more of the Capitol. This is a picture from the National Geographic, but this is Eisenhower lying in state in the rotunda of the Capitol. And you can see some of those very pictures around behind him. And yes, this is the place where national leaders of that status would be. And they now have a statue of Eisenhower right in the rotunda, so I took that also. And the famous statue of George Washington is there also. Now, I like this chandelier, but it was taken from an earlier time. It's in the Capitol, but I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's a beauty. And then we went on to another section. We're out of the rotunda now, but this is a memorial to the pioneers of the woman suffrage movement. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Lucretia Mott. And then here's a favorite of mine. This is a statue of Esther H. Morris from Wyoming. She was the world's first woman justice of the peace. She worked with William Bright in Wyoming to pass a law. He was in the legislature. He was also a tavern keeper in the little town where she was from, South Pass, Wyoming. And he passed a law. He introduced it and got it passed, giving women the right to vote, the right to hold office, and the right to own property. And so she has her own place in the Capitol, and I think that's great. This is a statue of Ethan Allen of the Green Mountain Boys. They are the guys who took Fort Ticonderoga from the British and used some of the cannons then later to run the British out of Boston. Now these two pictures, I've seen this one at one time, but these two pictures came out of a brochure that I got from there. This is the House chamber, and the line to there was forever. And this is the Senate chamber. This is where, these are the two places where the laws are put together, except that they do a lot in the cloakrooms and so forth. Now, this is the back of the Capitol. We're going to be leaving the Capitol, and we're going over to another one of the buildings on foot. We don't have to be picked up by the bus at this point. And this is some of the detail at the back of the Capitol. Now, these are workers. I just happened to see them streaming out of the place. These are workers, including congressional people, leaving the Capitol. And so I thought, gee, I ought to show that. But then I ought to show this too. This is a Bill of Rights. These are the 10 rules that make up the Bill of Rights. And remember that those people are supposed to protect that Bill of Rights, our Bill of Rights. And then this is going around and taking the Capitol from the front. And you'll see the freedom in the flag again. I took that picture years ago, and I sort of like it, so I use it. And this is a Capitol from the front off to the side, and then the Washington Monument. And I have a little note here to point out, this is the Smithsonian Castle over here on that side of the mall. Now, we're leaving the back of the Capitol, and this picture was taken from the back, and this is the Library of Congress. In case you wonder what kind of tree that magnolia blossom came from, this is one of them right here in bloom. So this is the Library of Congress, and we are almost in it. We'll go in about where that panel truck is. And you're not allowed to take pictures where the books are and where people are using them, so I just took pictures of the building itself, and it is really something. As you can see, it's a sight to behold. All kinds of little doodads and fancy windows, and that's the ceiling in the Library of Congress. Now, a lot of people leave it out, but the old Union Station is worth going to see. This is a view of the whole of it, and I have looked, and I can't find out what the meaning of this monument in front of the old Union Station is. Incidentally, trains still come in here, but people who have seen a number of my slideshows know that I like statues of lions. So here's the lion in front of the old Union Station. And then here's an interesting view inside the Union Station with 4 statues across, which is kind of interesting for a railroad station. Now we're going over to the Ford Theater. Ford's Theater is what it is, and you're looking right at the front of it. As you go in, the door is open, and that's where you enter. And this is the box in which Lincoln sat when he was shot, when he was assassinated. And then I went back in some of my stuff because I had actually photographed the chair that he was sitting in off to the right off to the right part of that last picture. He sat in this chair, and this chair is now in Michigan. First it was in Greenfield Village, and that's where I took this picture. I understand it now is in the Ford Museum right by Greenfield Village. April 14th, 1865 is when he was shot. And now you can go down in the basement, and there's all sorts of memorabilia and statues, and this was a photograph of Lincoln visiting one of the army camps, and memorabilia and busts and so forth of all kinds. And then right across from Ford's Theater is the Peterson House. This house is where Lincoln was taken after he was shot. And this is the outside of it, the little, I'm talking about this house right here, this brick house. It's, he was taken inside, and this is the little room that he was taken through, and this is not the original bed, but this is just like it, and it is in the exact place where Lincoln was laid, and then he died the next day, April 14th, 1865, right in that spot in a bed just like that. Then on a Friday night while we were on this tour, we got to go over to see a Marine parade at the old Marine barracks. And boy, these guys were really decked out. Look at the medals on that guy. Don't ask me what they all are, but he's a sergeant. And here are Marines up by the commandant's house, and you can see a lot of us out in the stands waiting for the parade to begin. Now, what you're going to see from me is mainly Marine bands. This is the Marine band. There were two of them there that night. One of them is the one, and the light is fading, and people are moving, and it's really hard. But I just wanted to show you what it was like. This is the old Marine barracks. It's been around since time began. And this is the main Marine band. Now this next picture that looks so nice and sharp and good was taken from one of their brochures so that you could see, because it's already dark, you could see what we saw as they did the parades and did the passage of the sabers and all of the different guns, really, and all of those different things before we left. A long wait, but a very, very interesting night there at the Marine barracks. Now we've gone on back into old Washington, and this is at DuPont Circle. You might have heard of that circle. It's the one they talk about where all the traffic is. And this second one is DuPont Circle's fountain there. And my wife and I, at different times, we lived just off of DuPont Circle. She longer than I. I was in the Navy in Washington. And right by DuPont Circle, not even a half a block off, we had lunch at a place called the Front Page. And this is one of the, they have these posted all over the place, and I just took one picture of them, so this was one of the front pages. Pretty good lunch too, just off of DuPont Circle. Now it's hard to tell, we're going up Embassy Row, and it's hard to tell if you have an embassy as such, or the place where the workers live in the embassy, lived at work in the embassy. I think those two that I've shown you are embassies, but I would not want to swear to it. But they all look like this, and it's all a row, and out in that very area is the Woodrow Wilson home. This is about 1915 area that we're talking about. And here's the outside view, and then we go in. And this is the main room with the picture of Woodrow Wilson there. And other parts of the room and the stairs. Woodrow Wilson is the one whose wife sort of guided the nation while he was deathly ill and later died. In the bedroom upstairs. In this, let's see, in this bedroom, I think, is where Woodrow Wilson died. And then here's the living room mantel. I never did quite understand this large painting on the wall here, but that's right in the home. And then a hallway, and this is a picture of Woodrow Wilson and his wife, Edith Bowling Galt. And she's the one that guided the country for around 3 years, I think. And here is the presidential symbol. Now, we're going to tie that into something that we're going to next, and that is the Washington National Cathedral. This is Episcopal, and this is considered, I think it's the 6th largest cathedral in the world. It was completed in 1990 after 83 years of work. We're outside now, that's the outside, and here is a wedding party, just getting ready for a wedding, of which they have a lot in here. And I even got to photograph the bride from fairly close in. Now a lady, we were told she was the purple lady, and she is dressed in purple, and she took us all around. She was our guide. So I'll go through these rather rapidly, and some of them will not really be great, but you can get an idea of the immensity of this place. And there's one that I wanted to tell you especially about, but the stained glass is really something. And this is the space window, and I think that right there, I think, is the portion of a moon rock that was brought back by one of the astronauts and given to the cathedral. But the stained glass and the altars and so forth. And then I told you we were going to tie it in. And this is the crypt. This is where Woodrow Wilson is buried. And he is the only president buried in the District of Columbia. Now, I won't be able to show you because we never actually saw it, but Helen Keller is interned elsewhere in this cathedral. This is a little fuzzy, but I wanted you to see the immensity of the ceiling of this place, not so much the stained glass window at the far end. And boy, this place is just huge. And then here are some different altars. That's there should be 2 here, yeah. And then the top of the cathedral again. Two more altars. Now this one is a little one, and it's way down. This is very close. I think off to the right is where Helen Keller is interned, here in the cathedral. Now we go outside, and away from the side that we went in. I scurried over there to get some pictures from that side, and man, oh man, this place is huge. There's 3 different views of that side. And then I noticed, and I turned, there's a garden called the Bishop's Garden, and across from it is this statue. I have no idea who it is. It's a little part of this program. You're supposed to tell me who that statue is. And 2 more views from the outside. the Washington National Cathedral. Now, we went on a lunch cruise. It was advertised as on the Potomac, but it starts here in the Washington Channel, right in here. It's the boat that's right here. But I had to go to a brochure to get a decent picture of the boat, and we will be out on that, but we will be out in the daytime. And we're out on the, we've come down the Washington Channel, and you can see the dome